I recently watched the latest episode of viewSource, which is a new podcast by Aurooba and Brian. And in this latest episode, they talk about building blocks using ACF blocks. And I thought it would be fun to create a video showing how you can create a similar block using Wicked Block Builder. By the way, if you'd like to check out their podcast, I have created or included a link to the episode in the video's description, so check it out. So in the episode, they create a block using ACF blocks that looks something like this. It lets you select an image and put in a headline. So I wanted to show how the same block could be created with Wicked Block Builder. So I'm on the Wicked Block Builder home page for the plugin, and I'm just going to add a new block. I'm going to call it Hello World Block. And I'm going to add some attributes for the various content in our block. I'll add a number attribute to track the ID of the image that we select. And I'll add an attribute for our headline. Next, I'm going to actually build the markup for the block. So I'm going to use a div for the block, and I'm going to add a class. I'll call it Hello World Block. And within that div, I'm going to nest another div. I'll give this one a class of photo. And within that div, I want to output an image. So I'm going to add an image component and map it to our image ID attribute. And what this will do is allow us to select an image in the block. I'll add another div. This one, I'm just going to call this content. And I'll add a rich text component that will let us enter in our headline. And I'll make it an H2 tag. And finally, I'll paste in the styles that I've created for the block. This styles tab is completely optional. If you prefer to enqueue your styles in WordPress, you can do that. Or if you have a build process in place where you write your CSS in Sass and then compile it to CSS and then enqueue it that way, that's totally fine. This is completely optional. So let's just take a look at what we have so far. Okay, here's our Hello World block. And this is what it looks like right now. So one thing that's a little bit different with the blocks that Wicked Block Builder creates compared to ACF, for example, is that Wicked Block Builder creates truly native blocks, which means you can interact with the block. So you can select images, for example. You can type directly into the block. So you can type in like this. But what this means is that the block is, instead of being rendered server-side, it's just a true native block that is rendered via JavaScript within the editor. So I forgot to add a few things to the block. Well, actually one thing, which is I wanted to have an option to make it full width. So I'll come back over to the block settings and enable the align feature support and turn on the full option. So now if we refresh, we should be able to make it full width. Something else that you can do with Wicked Block Builder is easily add settings to your block. So let's say, for example, that we want to extend our block to allow the user to select between displaying the photo on the left or displaying it on the right. We can add an option for that. So first I'll add another attribute just to track that preference. I'll call it layout. And then on the block sidebar, I'm going to add a new panel. And I'm going to call it block settings. And I'm going to add a radio control to that. And I'm going to map it to the layout attribute. Give it a label of layout and then add choices. Let's say photo left, photo right, make photo left the default, and let's see what that looks like. So now if we select our block, we have a new panel in the block sidebar that says block settings, and we have a layout option where we can choose between photo left or photo right, but it doesn't do anything, so let's fix that. So the way I've set this block up is I just have an alternate style called photo right, and when that's applied to the block, then it will just reverse the direction of the columns. So one way we can add that class to our block is to select the div for our block, add a new class, and I'm going to call it photo right. But what I'm going to do is add a condition so that this class is only output when the photo right layout option is selected. So let's see how it looks now. Okay, we had photo right selected before, so now it's applied that class. If we select photo left, it will remove the class and put the photo back on the left. So that's about it. That's how you can create a block using Wicked Block Builder. Another feature that might be interesting to some people is you can export your blocks to a standalone plugin, which means that you can use your blocks on a site that does not use Wicked Block Builder or have Wicked Block Builder installed. So for example, we can choose our Hello World block that we created, choose the plugin option as our export format, click export. And now if we come over to this is a separate site, it doesn't have any plugins activated. And so what I'm going to do is install the Hello World block that we just exported. Click activate. Okay, and now I'm going to refresh the sample page. Let's see if we can add our block. Here it is. Change it to full width. Select an image. And give it our headline. Just change the display for fun. And on the front end, this is what we have. So that's it. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below. And if you haven't already, be sure to check out the viewSource podcast.